Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Belle again. So today, we're going to talk about Russian MiGs entering NATO airspace. In a completely unsurprising escalation after the lack of response from Trump and NATO after the Russian incursion into Poland using unmanned drones, Russian MiG-31s penetrated NATO airspace after entering via the Gulf of Finland for about 12 minutes. The Russian aircraft loitered and circled. Italian fighters were scrambled to chase the MiGs out. 12 minutes is a long time. There was also recently an incursion into Romania by Russian drones. But the use of manned aircraft is an escalation that can't be ignored. NATO spokesperson Alison Hart said, quote, "This is yet another example of reckless Russian behavior and NATO's ability to respond." I disagree vehemently with the NATO spokesperson. This isn't reckless. Reckless is an action conducted without regard for the danger. Russia is completely aware of the danger. They don't see any because they believe that Trump and his European counterparts are too weak and divided to maintain the eastern border of NATO. Russian aircraft have patrolled the area outside of Estonian airspace for decades. This was not an accident. It's a probe or posturing. They are actively gauging NATO response. They now have a clear picture of NATO responses to both drones and manned aircraft. The use of manned aircraft is probably a method of directly mocking Trump for suggesting the incursion into Poland was an accident. Trump suggested an error sent the unmanned aircraft into NATO airspace. Shortly thereafter, manned Russian MiGs violated NATO airspace. There is no way to frame this as unintentional. Russia used MiG-31s, which are capable of carrying air-launched ballistic missiles, those are nukes, to penetrate Estonian airspace. That was probably a deliberate choice. It's nuclear saber-rattling Cold War style. A lot can happen in 12 minutes. Undoubtedly, they'll say it was an accident, but they have to diplomatically. Plausible deniability and all that. At the end of the day, Russia has penetrated NATO airspace with military aircraft multiple times recently. The NATO response has been lackluster. Russia has gained a massive amount of real-world intelligence on NATO's capabilities. They're flexing to the world, trying to suggest that they are a competitor to NATO, which is only true at the moment because U.S. leadership in the world has collapsed and respect for the U.S. is at an all-time low. The reality is that in a squared-up fight, Russia can't stand up to NATO. Years of fighting, and it hasn't been able to take Ukraine. Going up against NATO directly is laughable, but they seem to be operating more and more under the assumption that they can pick off NATO's eastern nations one by one. There is the possibility that it's all posturing, that they're trying to cast the perception that they can jump into the ring with NATO to influence smaller powers around the world, and it very well might work. Right now, the U.S. has abandoned soft power, is taking an isolationist stance, and as the U.S. voluntarily cedes influence around the world, some other nation will want that influence. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.